Alors, bonjour, hello. Hope everyone is doing well. How are you guys? How's everyone doing? Good? Wonderful. Thank you so much for being here. Mr. President of the Treasury Board, Mr. Parliamentary Secretary to the Treasury Board, Deputy Ministers and Assistant Deputy Ministers, ladies and gentlemen, friends, colleagues, my name is Darlene Mentor, and I will be your MC today. It's such a pleasure to see how many people came here today, and we warmly welcome you. Nous vous souhaitons la bienvenue. C'est un plaisir de voir tout le monde ici en si grand nombre, et nous vous remercions d'être ici. Nous souhaitons aussi la bienvenue aux personnes qui sont en ligne. We also welcome people who are joining us online, it's just great to see this turnout. Alors, avant de commencer, je vais inviter mes collègues Yenga Nzinsil et Ibrahim Diomandé qui vont faire la reconnaissance du territoire, and Yenga will be doing the land acknowledgement.
Thank you, Darlene. Welcome to everyone. We recognize that Ottawa is located on unceded territory of the Algonquin Anishinaabe Nation and extend our respect to all First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples for their valuable past and present contributions to this land. We also recognize the continent of Africa as the cradle of humanity. We extend our respect to all peoples who identify as African, Caribbean, Black, and the contributions they have made to the development of human civilization. We recognize that we're in the middle of the United Nations decade for people of African descent, 2015 to 2024, under the themes of recognition, justice, and development. We take this opportunity to reflect on our current condition in this country and continue to work with our allies towards making long-term improvements to the lives of our diverse peoples on this shared land.
Thank you. Nous reconnaissons qu'Ottawa est situé sur le territoire non cédé de la nation algonquine Anishinaabe. Et nous exprimons notre respect envers tous les peuples des Premières Nations, les Inuits et les Métis, pour leurs précieuses contributions passées et présentes à ce pays. Nous reconnaissons également le continent africain comme le berceau de l'humanité. Nous exprimons notre respect à tous les peuples qui s'identifient comme africains, antillais, noirs, et à la contribution qu'ils ont apportée au développement de la civilisation humaine. Nous reconnaissons que nous sommes au milieu de la décennie des Nations Unies pour les personnes d'ascendance africaine, qui s'étend entre 2015 et 2024. Sous les thèmes de la reconnaissance, de la justice et du développement, nous saisissions cette occasion pour réfléchir à notre situation actuelle dans ce pays et continuer à travailler avec nos alliés afin d'améliorer à long terme la vie de nos divers peuples sur cette terre commune. Je vous remercie.
Merci beaucoup, Ibrahim et Yenga. Alors, nous voulons que cet événement soit interactif. We want to be able to interact with you throughout the day. And in order to do this, we're going to do a little something that's a little bit different. I'll ask you to take out, if you have a phone, your tablet, or anything that is electronic. And we are going to set up what is called Poll Everywhere. So You have the instructions. The instructions are right there behind me. And throughout the day, I'll kind of be sensing the pulse of the room. I'll be asking you some questions. And you will see, and as you answer, you will see the results actually show on the screen. Alors, si vous êtes en ligne, je vous demande aussi de faire la même chose, de vous inscrire de la même manière à Poll Everywhere, à pollev.com/FBEC-CEFN 957. Et puis, pour qu'on puisse commencer, your responses are anonymous. Is everyone ready? Should we try it? Okay, we can try one. Okay, so question 1. Are you excited to be here today? Yes, okay. Whoa, so we have a yes at 100%. We want to keep these ratings high throughout the day, right? So it's good to see. So Poll Everywhere is working. I want to believe that what brought us all here today is the belief in a cause that needs to be addressed. So some progress to be made, there's a lot of progress to be made, and recognition that anti-Black racism is alive and well, and that its presence and prevalence can only be addressed if its symptoms are legitimized and its impacts recognized and addressed. Too many of us here today, myself included, can speak about this topic with unwanted intimacy and can describe the impact that it has had on ourselves, on our friends, our colleagues, our children. C'est bien de voir que même si c'est un sujet qui est tellement délicat et inconfortable, il y a tant de gens qui sont sortis aujourd'hui pour accepter d'en parler en toute franchise et puis d'en parler dans un environnement qui est aussi sécuritaire. It's great that we will be able to engage in frank dialogue. And honestly, like even Mother Nature is on our side today. It's such an amazing day. So I think we want to keep it that way. A few things that are really important. We have a very busy agenda. We are starting a few minutes late, so I'm going to see how we can catch up as best I can. As the MC for this event, I will kind of be keeping track of time. If at some point you see me kind of moving around speakers, you know that you're getting really, really, really close to your time. And at some point, if you see me stand up, it means that is your cue, that time is over and we need to move to the next segment. So a few really important things. Quelque chose qui sont extrêmement importantes, quelques principes qui sont extrêmement importants avant même que l'on ne commence. Rappelons-nous de certaines choses, 3 choses en particulier. La première, le respect. We want these proceedings we want them to happen in respect, and that means that, everyone has their own voice, everyone has their own way of seeing things, and everything will be respected in terms of what is said here today. No talking during the presentations, and no cell phones, please. I know I'm contradicting myself because I asked you to do Poll Everywhere, and then I'm asking for no cell phones. So I'm gonna ask you to just collaborate with me. The cell phones are only for when we ask that you take them out, okay? Donc, this is a collective event. Alors, toutes les voix comme je l'ai mentionné plus tôt, sont importantes. On demande, lorsque vous prendrez la parole, de ne pas monopoliser le micro. Please make your point and make sure that it is concise, that it is clear, and please don't hold the mic for too long, because I will stand up at some point. You will see me. All right. And the third principle, which is extremely important and which links to the theme of this event, and it is inclusiveness. The theme of this event is Black inclusion, and we want to see inclusiveness. We want this to be a safe space where different voices will be shared and where everyone can say what it is that is on their mind. This is a fabulous event, and I'm going to go and have a seat. I'm going to invite Richard Sharp from FBEC to join us here. But before I do so, I just want to recognize the amount of work that the FBEC team made to just make this event happen. Alors, nous devons reconnaître tout le travail de l'équipe de FBEC pour mettre en place cet événement. Alors, Richard.
Bonjour tout le monde. This is going to be the first time that I have ever done a speech off my phone because my printer ran out of ink last night. Murphy's Law. So, and this is going to show you how old I'm getting that I can't see this tiny print with my glasses on. Okay, here we go. Merci à tous d'être venus. Votre participation a contribué au succès du travail fait par notre groupe. Avant de prendre quelques minutes pour vous donner un aperçu de notre progrès tout au long de l'année précédente, je tiens à reconnaître et à remercier les personnes qui ont contribué à notre succès actuel. So I'm not going to punish you too much with my French. I'm going to make an effort. I'd like to thank everyone for coming. I'm going to do something that our friend Greg has reminded me is actually a good idea, and make my acknowledgments for this event at the beginning of the event as opposed to the end when half you folks are going to be going home. Sponsors for today that make this thing happen: the Department of Canadian Heritage, the Department of National Defense, the Office of Chief Human Resources Officer, the Crown Indigenous Relations, Northern Affairs Canada, Western Economic Diversification, all provided financial supports for this event. FBEC does not take money from federal government departments, but we do take sponsorships in terms of making these events happen. I wanted to acknowledge my brother, Robin Brown, who has been part of this group since the beginning. He's no longer a member of the core group, but he has been instrumental in what we call standing up or making this group happen. Prolific communications and document creator, has been by our side throughout most of our work. The core group, if I could ask, I'm not going to ask you guys to give a standing ovation to these folks, but you can do so in your minds. Lisa Daniel, who was our Queen Bee, Chukson Wachi, who was our strategic operations guy, and Natalie Tate, our strategic policy and planning person, all from PSBC, along with myself. Bill Matthews has been gracious enough to give us time to work on this stuff full time. They are sort of pivotal to the foundations of what this thing, FBEC, is. Lola Lawrence, Atong Ater are new additions from Stats Canada and Department of Fisheries and Oceans, respectively, both supporting us in data analysis and communications. We thank members of the core team, as well as the volunteers, the many volunteers that have helped make this happen. They've been running around and building all of the agendas. I actually did very little in terms of organizing this event. I run around doing speaking presentations, and they have done most of this work. Our regional folks, some of them I think are here today. Charlene Libert-Scott from British Columbia, Lee Boomy from Alberta, David Nelson from Quebec, Ronald Sharp from the Maritimes, our FBEC representatives in the regions. We're expanding across the country, and they are our point people out there. Past volunteers that were close to the group during its inception, Charles Male and Patience Neguyo, definitely reasons why we are here today. I'd also like to give a quick shout out to the Dream Legacy Foundation, of which I am now on an interchange assignment that allows me to do work and allows us actually to do work with respect to the UN Decade for People of African Descent, both regionally within the Federal Public Service and nationally. It has been a wonderful ride. I think that the Executive Director, Eldon Holder Jr., will be here during the career progression workshops to share a few words. Je tiens à souligner le soutien informel que Greg Fergus, en sa qualité de secrétaire parlementaire de SCT, et ses collègues et de caucus noirs de membres du Parlement, nous apportons en permanence pour le travail de CEFN. Greg has been there from the beginning, and it is wonderful to see this future minister here with us today. Yves Duclos, the President of the Treasury Board, again, thanks for your ongoing commitment that has been reaffirmed to us in terms of supporting the work of the UN Decade across the Federal Public Service. We are deeply indebted to the level of support that we receive across public service. Deputy Minister community, we have been afforded unprecedented access and support to this community to share our views and our issues and our perspectives on what a future recommendation should look like to address anti-Black racism in the workplace. I cannot name all of them because I think we're close to 30 meetings so far. Ian Shugart, Nancy Shawan, Patrick Borbet, Daniel Watson, and of course Bill Matthews, Deputy Minister Thomas. Some of them will be on the panel today. The visible minority networks from across the country are organizing, and we have met, particularly with Hans Prosper. It has been a fantastic to continue to work on issues specific to Black folk, but also with a focus on visible minorities, because this work is, of course, going to benefit them as well. Our support with the unions has been unwavering. We have met with all presidents of unions of the three major unions, except for the Public Service Alliance of Canada. We hope to meet with them soon. We have the president here today who will be providing opening remarks and greetings on behalf of the Public Service Alliance of Canada. These engagements with unions have been nothing short but instrumental in allowing us to address some of the underlying issues, especially as they pertain to representation. So very quickly then, because I'm starting to ramble on and someone's going to hook me off the stage in a minute, I would like to say that we have heard you. We have heard the voices of Black and people of African descent employees across the public service. We've heard your fear and apprehension to speak out about maltreatment that you receive within your workplaces. We've heard of the lack of opportunities and the lost opportunities, inequities of opportunities as they pertain to Black folk. We've heard the difficulty that you face to stand up and be counted, to self-identify for these important surveys that help to quantify our existence in the workplace. We've heard that Black Muslim women wearing hijab are harassed when they go for lunch outside of their workplaces, especially after the legislation of ethnically discriminating laws. We've heard how around performance appraisal time, you are suddenly no longer competent and working up to standard, and the impact that this has. We have heard you tell us that there's a need to have a conversation about diversity and inclusion that includes Black inclusion. In effect, applying a Black lens to our policies and our programs, hiring promotion practices. We've heard that we cannot be grouped with other racialized employees as visible minorities because we don't share the same experiences. We've heard the pain and the psychological stress caused by enduring all of this, sometimes over the course of decades. Our response has been quite different, I think, than what people are used to. We started having these conversations at water coolers, and after work became very small and have expanded very slowly. We've gone across departments to talk to employees first about what it is that they need. We launched a website to connect members and provide information to support them and to tell their stories. We opened an FBEC membership to allies. We have Christian Kumar back there trying to keep a low profile, but he has been working tirelessly to help link allied groups within the federal public service from the visible minority community. We have worked with brilliant Black executives to hold the first ever Senior Leaders Learning Day for deputy ministers on what anti-Black racism looks like. And this started these conversations that we have been having. 2 years ago, we made the case for the public service to start collecting race-based data, disaggregated employment equity data. And now we have the option is there on the survey for us to be able to collect and identify as Black or any other racialized group to get detailed information as to what's happening to us. Over a year ago, we started to make a case that publicly that there's never been a Black deputy minister. And a year later, we have an associate deputy minister. I'm not saying that we're taking the credit because I know this is a super accomplished person. I'm saying that, and Carolyn Xavier, I think she got there very much on her own volition. But what I am saying is that I do believe that our voices have some influence. Last year, we also made the case for this disaggregated data. We're hoping to receive it in a form that we can use, especially around the Public Service Employee Survey, to work with the Public Service Commission. We've engaged with the Public Service Commission and Statistics Canada on interdepartmental working groups around data, and it has been wonderful to be welcomed and engaged in that respect. We have raised representation in human rights and what appropriate union support for Black employees look like. We've established a union management team for FBEC and an HR management team for FBEC to help advise our work and the work of allies. We support calls for the examination of the term visible minorities because we know that the visible minorities term masks our experience and also does not accurately share the experiences of other racialized people. We know that we are, as people of African descent, Black, Congolese, Afro-Brazilian, indigenous Nova Scotians, and even within our group there is profound diversity and need for care in addressing these issues. We share a common experience, which is the color of our skin, and that treats us in a way that no other group in this country are treated. We've asked that a national strategy, and this is engagements that we've had with Canadian Heritage, include a focus on anti-Black racism and that focus look inward to the public service. We cannot expect the public service people to follow the lead of the public service if our house, in fact, is not in order. And we're here today to expand on last year's results, share, learn, make concerted effort to achieve our full participation in the federal public service. We have seen an openness and a willingness on the part of the senior government officials to engage in these conversations, and the demonstration of their participation and support here today is part of that. We believe we are, in fact, demonstrating Black excellence in how we engage in these issues. We encourage folks, both Black and non-Black, racialized and other, to sign up on our website, receive our information, and engage in these conversations online. I thank you all for your participation and support in making our work over the past year such a resounding success. I look forward to ongoing deliberations of the day. Thank you very much. Sorry, I still have a job here. I would like to call up Member of Parliament and Parliamentary Secretary to the Treasury Board, Greg Fergus, to introduce the President of the Treasury Board.
Merci beaucoup, Richard. Puis bon matin, tout le monde. Moi aussi, j'aimerais certainement reconnaître que nous nous trouvons sur le territoire non cédé de la nation algonquine, le peuple Anishinaabe. Et nous sommes très reconnaissants d'être ici aujourd'hui sur leur territoire. Alors, joyeux mois de l'histoire des Noirs. Happy Black History Month, everyone. That's right. Ça me donne un immense plaisir d'être ici parmi vous aujourd'hui, avec tellement des invités distingués, des personnes qui ont travaillé très fort pour s'assurer que les Noirs puissent prendre notre place pour continuer à bâtir notre pays. It's an incredible thing to watch the Federal Black Employees Caucus. For the last 2 years, since I've been a member of Parliament, my interactions with many Black public servants has been remarkable. I've been seeing the work that has been started off from the conversations, building on the work that had been done by previous generations of Black public servants. But I've discovered that there has been a real awakening, in a sense, awakening that we need to work together. It's not the Haitian community, it's not the Jamaican community, it's not the Congolese community. It's Black Canadians coming together to helping each other out and making a stronger, more resilient Canada. And that starts by having the discussions which we're having here today. You know, some of these questions are going to be very uncomfortable. When you take a look at the incarceration rate of Blacks, you see that Blacks are 4 times more likely to be incarcerated than non-Blacks. The only other group that surpasses that are Indigenous peoples, where they're 8 times more likely than their demographic weight in the population to be arrested, remanded, and eventually incarcerated. Il faut poser des questions, parce que toutes les études ont déjà démontré que les Noirs ni les Autochtones sont plus aptes à commettre des crimes. Alors, il faut poser la question. Comment se fait-il qu'on a ces chiffres-là dans un pays aussi ouvert, aussi généreux comme le Canada? So, these are uncomfortable questions, but that's okay. That's okay, because I know that by having these discussions, we should be able to do something about it. I know one thing for sure. If we don't have these discussions, we'll never do anything about it. So that is why I'm so encouraged by the work that the Federal Black Employees Caucus has taken on. Une autre chose qui me donne beaucoup de plaisir, c'est de travailler avec des personnes exceptionnelles. Et une des personnes, j'ai le plaisir à souligner à leur présence, c'est Jean-Yves Duclos, le président du Conseil du Trésor du Canada. Je peux vous dire plusieurs choses à propos de son passé, mais il y a certaines choses que j'aimerais juste souligner. C'est un homme très, très dévoué au service, pour s'assurer qu'on va avoir des bons services aux Canadiens. C'est un économiste de formation qui a enseigné à l'Université de Laval, qui a été reconnu par ses pairs. Il est devenu un Fellow of the Royal Society. Ça, c'est pas rien pour un académique. C'est la plus haute distinction qu'on peut confier sur un professeur à une université. Il était aussi le ministre de l'Emploi et du Développement social du Canada, qui est un ministère qui investit dans les gens, investit dans les Canadiens, qui s'assure que tout le monde peut participer pleinement dans la société canadienne. He's also, for those of you who don't know, a great singer. And he was a former parliamentary page, as I was, a few years before me. So you're speaking to 2 out of the 3 former pages who actually got elected. But he's the man who walks the talk in his very gentle but yet deeply analytical way. He knows the importance of making sure that everybody can have their space. And without even thinking, and I don't think he did it for any other reason besides he just recognized the great competency and skills, but he named the first Black Chief of Staff, in Marjorie Michel, who is here with us. Marjorie is known to many of you in the audience as a clear ally and activist, and I think this speaks a lot to the values of my friend Jean-Yves Duclos. Alors, mesdames et messieurs, sans plus tarder, ça me donne un grand plaisir de vous présenter Jean-Yves Duclos, président du Conseil du Trésor.
Merci beaucoup, Greg, pour cette charmante et trop généreuse introduction. Merci beaucoup, Richard, for having highlighted how much of your team is important to you and to us in driving the caucus and this wonderful assembly, annual assembly. Of course, I'm very honored to be here today to help kick off the Federal Black Employee Caucus Annual General Meeting and to recognize that we are standing on the traditional and ceded territory of the Algonquin Anishinaabe people. D'emblée, j'aimerais aussi reconnaître l'importance des communautés noires du Canada, dont la présence au Canada depuis des centaines d'années, particulièrement en Nouvelle-Écosse, a largement contribué à l'édification de notre grand pays. I would also like to commend FBEC on the important work you do to raise awareness at the highest levels of government on issues of concern to Black public servants, engaging with ministers, unions, and senior officials, including our Chief Human Resources Officer and the Clerk of the Privy Council. Non seulement vous faites preuve d'un engagement qui attire l'attention nécessaire sur les enjeux importants, mais vous exercez aussi, comme le disait Richard, le leadership qui soutient notre engagement à l'égard de l'inclusion, de la diversité et des droits de la personne. Au Canada, notre société a été celle de différentes cultures venues de partout dans le monde, jointes à celle millénaire des peuples autochtones. Le pluralisme est au cœur de notre histoire et de notre identité. Au fil du temps, nous avons appris que nous sommes plus forts, que nous sommes meilleurs lorsque nous nous respectons et lorsque nous nous valorisons les uns les autres et que nous travaillons ensemble. Today, in an increasingly connected world, we understand that the continued strength of our countries on the international agenda and within Canada lies in our continued embrace of openness, inclusion, and respect. and in ensuring that everyone has the opportunity to contribute to their fullest potential and make the fullest impact in our world. In the federal public service, how adept we are at managing change has a direct effect on the health of the economy, the safety and security of our citizens, and the quality of life we enjoy. Si nous sommes déconnectés du monde qui nous entoure, si nous choisissons le repli, la méfiance et la division au lieu de l'ouverture, nous risquons de perdre notre efficacité et notre pertinence pour le Canada et pour l'humanité. Et c'est pour cette raison que notre gouvernement déploie d'importants efforts pour créer une fonction publique qui soit à la fois diversifiée et inclusive, représentative de la population en constante évolution du Canada. Pour trouver des solutions aux problèmes complexes de politique publique auxquels nous sommes confrontés aujourd'hui, nous avons besoin d'une variété de points de vue, d'expériences, de contextes, d'orientations et d'idées. Nous voulons en fait tirer le meilleur de chacun. For this, we need to work to end discrimination based on race, gender, sexual orientation, and disability, and thereby foster the conditions that allow everyone to perform at their best. It's not only the right thing to do, it's absolutely essential to our success, both as a government and as a country. The foundation for that work is a broad policy and legislative framework that supports diversity and inclusion in the public service. Ces principes sont inscrits dans la loi canadienne sur les droits de la personne, la loi sur le multiculturalisme canadien, la loi sur l'équité en matière d'emploi et la toute nouvelle loi canadienne sur l'accessibilité. Et même si la fonction publique a réalisé des progrès substantiels, comme vous le savez mieux que quiconque, il nous reste énormément de travail à faire. Our government recently appointed Caroline Xavier as Associate Deputy Minister for the Department of Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship, the first Black woman to be appointed as Associate Deputy Minister. It's an important step forward, but it's not nearly enough. And it starts with us, the government, recognizing the issues you have identified as challenges. Among other things, issues such as A, the lack of disaggregated data, as Richard correctly highlighted. B, ongoing discrimination, harassment, and career stagnation among Black employees. And C, the effects of these on their mental health, well-being and productivity. En janvier 2018, le premier ministre a annoncé que le gouvernement du Canada reconnaissait officiellement la décennie des Nations unies pour les personnes d'ascendance africaine. Comme vous le savez, l'objectif de la décennie des personnes d'ascendance africaine est de promouvoir les droits des personnes d'origine africaine et d'encourager un plus grand respect de leur patrimoine, de leur culture et de leur contribution à des sociétés partout sur la Terre. Dans le budget 2018, une somme de 9 millions de dollars a aussi été accordée au ministère du Patrimoine canadien afin d'améliorer le soutien des communautés locales et des jeunes Canadiens noirs. We also promised $10 million over 5 years to the Public Health Agency of Canada to develop research in support of more culturally focused mental health programs in Black communities. Later, Budget 2019 provided $25 million over 5 years to my former department, Employment and Social Development Canada, for projects to celebrate, share knowledge, and build capacity in Black Canadian communities. We are also modernizing our approach to data collection. An example is a public service employee survey which gathers data directly from public servants on their work environment. Cette année, le sondage permettait aux employés noirs de s'identifier afin de nous aider à mieux répondre et mieux comprendre les problèmes auxquels ils sont confrontés. Ces données plus riches et cette analyse plus approfondie nous permettront de mieux comprendre les défis particuliers auxquels font face les employés noirs. Nous sommes également pleinement engagés en faveur du bien-être, de la diversité et de l'inclusion de la fonction publique. Cet engagement a été exprimé dans les lettres de mandat de tous mes collègues, dans les priorités du greffier du conseil privé et dans d'autres déclarations officielles. Par exemple, nous avons pris des mesures pour créer des lieux de travail plus sûrs, plus sains, plus inclusifs et plus diversifiés pour tous nos employés en lançant le Centre pour le bien-être, l'inclusion et la diversité qui a aussi été financé dans le cadre du budget 2018. The Center offers support to employees and managers who want to improve their workplace through the exchange of new practices and innovative ideas. We're also helping the Canada School of Public Service to identify training gaps in respectful workplaces, as well as to work on skills development and reduce cultural unconscious biases. À l'avenir, les ministères devront aussi continuer de se concentrer sur l'évolution de la population canadienne de façon à veiller à ce que notre fonction publique soit totalement représentative des personnes qu'elle sert. As President of the Treasury Board, I will work in close collaboration with the Secretary and all Deputy Ministers to remove the remaining barriers and facilitate the access of visible minorities to senior positions in our public service. Cet objectif est clairement défini dans la lettre de mandat que le Premier ministre m'a donnée et les valeurs d'inclusion et d'ouverture sont au cœur de mon propre engagement politique. Lorsque je regarde ce que nous devons faire pour assurer une pleine participation des Canadiens noirs dans notre fonction publique, je songe à la façon dont la communauté noire a façonné notre pays, celui que nous connaissons aujourd'hui. Je me souviens que vous êtes les descendants et les représentants de pionniers qui se sont battus pour l'équité et pour l'égalité et pour le respect. I'm thinking of people like Vala Desmond, the Nova Scotia civil rights activist whose image now graces Canada's $10 bill. I'm thinking of Lincoln Alexander, the lawyer, member of parliament, cabinet minister, war veteran, and former lieutenant governor of Ontario. He was the first person from a visible minority to take on that role and the first black member of parliament in Canadian history. Je pense à Michaëlle Jean, l'ancienne journaliste et animatrice de radio et de télévision et la première femme d'origine caribéenne à être nommée gouverneure générale du Canada. Je pense à Jean Augustine, la pionnière de la politique, de l'activisme social et de l'éducation. Elle a également été la première Afro-Canadienne à être élue à la Chambre des communes, à être nommée au sein du cabinet fédéral et la première commissaire à l'équité du gouvernement de l'Ontario. Je pense aux sénateurs Ann Coulls et Donald Oliver. Je pense à Oscar Peterson, the world-renowned Montreal-born pianist whose contribution to our culture transcends borders and time and whose music can still be heard every day just outside of the National Arts Centre right here in Ottawa. I could keep going for long, but my point is that all of these individuals have demonstrated that in overcoming systemic barriers and prejudices, they could make strong and lasting contributions to our country and to the rest of the world. And their legacy continues through the works of so many, including yourselves, black public servants, elected officials, like my colleague Greg Fergus, who happens to be my own member of parliament, of whom I'm so proud, and senior political staff, like Marjorie Michel, the first black woman ever to be named as chief of staff to a federal minister, and a good one too. This is all part of what makes us Canadians. As public servants, you are carrying this torch forward, and I'm here to tell you that our government is your ally. Our nation's history is as diverse as the people that call Canada home. It's the story of people on an upward path and the fight to be treated with equality, fairness, and dignity. It's a story of people who understand we are stronger because of our differences, not in spite of them. Et c'est l'histoire d'un pays qui ne se contente pas de reconnaître sa diversité, mais qui a fait le choix de la célébrer et de la valoriser et d'en tirer profit au maximum. And the Prime Minister, our boss, said it best. We cannot build a better world unless we work together, respect our differences, protect the vulnerable, and put people at the heart of the decisions we make every day. I couldn't agree more, and I look forward to continuing that work with you to do just that. Merci beaucoup. Thank you so much.
Merci beaucoup, honorable ministre Duclos, pour cette présentation. Effectivement, le gouvernement du Canada a fait énormément de choses et aussi contribue un budget quand même assez significatif pour faire avancer cette cause sur laquelle nous travaillons pour le moment. It's a great thing to see that there's such interest and there's such commitment on the part of the federal government to move this cause forward and to work on inclusion and ensure that everyone feels equally able to progress, equally accepted, respected, and is treated with dignity. It is a wonderful thing to see all the women, the people who have been named here this morning as the first. I think it is so important as well for us to move forward from having just not one or just not the first person. A number of years ago, I was very, very lucky to attend the United Nations World Conference on racism and racial discrimination. It was an incredible experience. And back then, we were already speaking of firsts. We were already putting some very primary things in place. And I think now it is time for us to move beyond and to be able to speak of numbers and multitudes. Bon. Cela étant dit, alors le prochain conférencier est le président national de l'Alliance de la fonction publique. J'aimerais vous présenter Chris Aylward. Chris Aylward was elected as the national president of the Public Service Alliance of Canada in May 2018. He previously served as PSAC's national executive vice president from 2012 to 2018. Monsieur Aylward est natif de Terre-Neuve, et puis il nous amène aujourd'hui he brings us greetings from the bargaining units. Alors, Monsieur Aylward, c'est un plaisir de vous recevoir ce matin.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Bonjour tout le monde. Good morning, everyone. It is indeed an honor for me to be here this morning bringing greetings on behalf of the 200,000 members of the Public Service Alliance of Canada. 140,000 are public service workers. I want to thank Richard, Sharp, and FBEC for the invitation here this morning. It's important for Black workers to have their own space to discuss issues that relate specifically to lived experiences. We know that Black workers face unique barriers and forms of racism than other racialized workers. The Public Service Alliance of Canada supports the primary objectives of FBEC. We agree that employment equity data should be broken down to better understand where Black employees are positioned in the federal public service. We also want to support the mental health of Black employees by reducing harassment and discrimination in the workplace. Mental health has been a priority of the PSAC for some time and must be looked at through an equity lens. This includes the impact of microaggressions or racial discrimination on the mental health of Black employees. We cannot talk about mental health and assume that all federal workers are affected the same way and that one strategy will work for all. These strategies must include the input and consultation of equity groups, including the Federal Black Employees Caucus. Our union holds regular national and regional conferences for our racialized members. The consistent themes coming out of these conferences have been that racism is systemic, including anti-Black racism, and that our members have been denied career opportunities. We know that the racialized group is one of the most educated in the country, but yet they are not reflected in the leadership of the public service. We also know that employers are not meeting the requirements under the Employment Equity Act. They're not conducting regular employment systems reviews, or for that matter, any systems reviews at all. The workforce analysis is very limited, and so are the consultations with the unions. Changes to the staffing processes, such as more managerial discretion, less oversight by Treasury Board and the Public Service Commission, and the use of best fit criteria have negatively impacted career opportunities for equity groups. A few years ago, our Black and other racialized PSAC members here in the National Capital Region identified a need for better training of union reps to deal with allegations of workplace racism and racial discrimination. Training was developed to specifically address representation issues facing racialized members. We also developed anti-oppression, anti-racism, and employment equity training for the membership. Racialized people should not be on their own and should not be solely responsible for eliminating the systemic barriers. Those of us in leadership positions must take this on and must make it a priority. On a positive note, I would like to share with you a very recent case just a few weeks ago where the Canadian Human Rights Tribunal found that a subtle scent of discrimination was enough to find racial discrimination. The case involved a Black man who was denied a staffing competition based on stereotypes. The tribunal did not find there was an intentional or obvious form of discrimination, but noted, and I quote, "Racism, including anti-Black racism, is present in society in Canada, not only in overt forms, but also subconsciously among many people and institutions who operate on the basis of negative racial stereotypes, including those directed towards Blacks." We know that even with successful cases like this one, change will not come quick enough. We still have a long way to go ensuring that all our workplaces are inclusive, representative, and racism-free. We look forward to working with FBEC on common issues that will contribute to making the workplace better for all employees. And I ask those of you who are PSAC members here today to please get involved with your union, whatever capacity you're comfortable in, whether it's a regional equity committee, a local executive position, or other leadership positions, and I personally look forward to meeting with FBEC in the very near future. Thank you very much for the invitation. Have a wonderful meeting. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Aylward, for this dynamic message. I'm sure FBEC looks forward to working with you as well. Notre prochain segment est un segment avec un panel vraiment intéressant de leaders de la fonction publique. Et puis, je les invite à se joindre à nous. La première personne est Monsieur Daniel Watson. The deputy, oh no, sorry, Mr. Watson, unfortunately, could not be here today, right? Because of many things that are happening that you're aware of. But I'll move to the next person. Marie-Claude Landry is the Chief Commissioner of the Canadian Human Rights Commission. It's a pleasure for us to have Marie-Claude here today. Marie-Claude is a renowned leader, and she has particularly advocated for better health and palliative care in her region, stronger local businesses, and healthy community development. It's a pleasure to have you here, Madame Landry. Mr. Patrick Borby was appointed president of the Public Service Commission in May 2017. Prior to that, he was Associate Deputy Minister of Canadian Heritage, and he's been that since July 2014, where he oversaw the departmental mandate for Sport Canada and worked closely with the National Capital Commission and the 6 national museums. Alors, c'est un plaisir de vous avoir ici, Monsieur Borby. Caroline Xavier is the Associate Deputy Minister for Immigration, Refugees, and Citizenship Canada. Caroline was just appointed as Associate Deputy Minister, and prior to that, she has over 30 years of experience in the federal public service. It's a pleasure to have you here, Ms. Xavier. So, I have a series of, Je suis vraiment, juste un moment, il me semble qu'il me manque une page, voilà. Ah, no, all right. Can you, Jody, yes, absolutely. Can you move to the next slide, please? Sorry. I want to welcome as well Jody Thomas, who is the Deputy Minister for National Defense. Ms. Thomas, it is a pleasure to have you here today. Okay, thank you. Okay. Alors, the theme of the event, dear panelists, is Black inclusion. So we would like to know, and like the first question, and I'd like each panelist to address this question. We would like to know what your department is doing to address the principles of the UN Decade for people of African descent as it pertains to anti-Black racism, specifically discrimination and career development within the government. Nous aimerions savoir quel est l'impact, quel genre de travail fait votre département pour reconnaître cette décennie sur la population africaine et puis l'impact que vous voulez avoir à ce niveau-là. Je commence, oui, absolument. Allez-y, Madame Landry.
Alors, bonjour à tous. Merci de nous recevoir ici aujourd'hui. What a pleasure it is to be here with all of you today. Conversations like this are how progress takes shape. And I cannot think of a more vital subject matter than racial equality in Canada. Our organization of 225 people promotes equality, diversity, and inclusion within Canada's workplaces. I will focus my answer on our work under the Employment Equity Act. We can all agree that there is a strong correlation between equality and diversity. You cannot have one without the other. Representation matters. Meaningful culture change will only happen when everyone is represented equally within the public service. When the people working at every level of management within the federal government accurately reflect the Canadian public we all serve. So with that in mind, I was absolutely pleased to announce last Thursday that the Canadian Human Rights Commission will soon be looking specifically at the representation of racialized people in senior level positions across the federal public service. We will be conducting an horizontal audit that will identify where employment equity gaps and barriers exist for racialized employees at the senior levels. The audit will also identify best practices in hiring, retention, and promotion being used by organizations with successful representation. And when we walk the talk about employment equity, the words we use matter. For example, the term visible minorities, which is used in the Employment Equity Act, is an antiquated term. As Canada's national human rights institution, we have advocated for changes to the term visible minority in our submission to the United Nations. We agree that the term obscures the reality of differences and disparities between groups. We have adopted the term racialized persons or racialized groups as alternatives. This poses challenges because these are still blanket terms that do not adequately reflect the diverse collection of people from assorted backgrounds and heritages. And on this topic, we must keep pushing for disaggregated data of all unique subpopulations. Only then can we get a clear picture of racial representation and racial discrimination in the federal public service. We can't see what we don't measure. I'll leave it there for now, but hopefully during our discussion of some of the other questions, I will be able to elaborate on some of the other efforts that are ongoing at the Commission. Thank you very much.
Merci beaucoup, Madame Landry. We can't see what we can't measure, and words matter. So thank you very much for this. Je me tourne maintenant à Monsieur Borbé. La même question, s'il vous plaît.
Alors, bonjour, good morning. I'd like to thank FBEC for inviting me today for their annual meeting. The issue of inclusion of visible minorities or racialized employees is a priority for the organization I lead. The Public Service Commission is responsible for identifying and eliminating barriers in recruitment and staffing, and for developing policies and practices that will continue to help ensure that employment equity group members are well represented in the public service of Canada. Nous examinons présentement les défis auxquels sont confrontés les membres des groupes des employés racialisés, non seulement pour entrer dans la fonction publique, mais aussi pour obtenir de l'avancement et gravir les échelons afin de s'épanouir professionnellement. Lorsque nous aurons une meilleure idée des enjeux en cause, nous pourrons alors examiner les politiques et les programmes et mettre en œuvre les changements nécessaires afin de favoriser des résultats positifs et durables dans l'ensemble de la fonction publique. Last year, we completed a study on the promotion rates of the 4 employment equity groups, and the main findings were as follows. Overall, there is no discernible difference in promotion rates between members of visible minorities and people who are not members of visible minorities. Notwithstanding this, visible minorities were over 25% less likely to be promoted to the executive category, and they were 16% less likely to get a promotion within the executive category. So, Marie-Claude, your announcement is well received in that context. This analysis does not, however, drill down within the subgroups. This was discussed in our consultations with FBEC members who raised the importance of performing further analysis at the level of subgroups. We agreed, and we recently established the PSC Employment Equity Research Working Group. This working group aims at ensuring that future PSC research will explore, to a greater extent, the reality and challenges of members of these communities, and will further reflect their views and their concerns. The working group is made up of 15 representatives from 8 organizations, among which 5, including Richard Sharp, are FBEC members. It includes representatives from the PSC, PSPC, ESDC, CRA, Stats Canada, the Treasury Board Secretariat, and PSAC. The key elements of the mandate of the working group are provide feedback and advice on the research undertaken by the PSC in regard to visible minority subgroups, and articulate the perspective of members of visible minority subgroups to inform future PSC research projects. The working group had its inaugural meeting last month on January 8th and will meet on a regular basis for up to 6 times per year. De plus, dans le cadre de son mandat, la Commission mène présentement une vérification portant sur les taux de réussite des membres des groupes visés par l'équité en matière d'emploi et leur taux de représentation à chacune des étapes du processus de recrutement. Nous examinons aussi les facteurs qui peuvent influencer leur représentation dans le système de nomination. Cette vérification porte sur 181 processus de recrutement externe annoncés dans 30 ministères et organismes, incluant plus de 15 000 postulants. L'échantillon examiné contient 30% des postulants qui se sont volontairement déclarés comme membres d'un des 3 groupes, excluant les femmes, des 3 groupes d'équité en matière d'emploi. L'équipe analyse présentement les résultats. Certaines données sur la représentation des groupes de minorités visibles, incluant les données sur les employés noirs, seront bientôt disponibles. Nous prévoyons pouvoir publier un rapport à l'automne. Moreover, to get a better understanding of visible minorities' perceptions with regard to staffing, we conducted the first cycle of the Staffing and Nonpartisanship Survey, and we're currently completing the analysis of the perceptions of employment equity group members with regards to merit, fairness, and transparency, including the perception of visible minority subgroups. So just to quickly mention, the survey has indicated that notwithstanding the fact that visible minorities had lower results when it came to merit, fairness, and transparency, federal Black public service employees had slightly more positive perceptions when it came to merit. However, slightly lower perceptions when it came to issues related to transparency and fairness. So these are all interesting results that we need to continue to further analyze and further get more detail at the subgroup level. And I want to say thank you to our colleagues from FBEC and OCRO, Statistics Canada, as well as other representatives of subgroups that have been involved in these discussions, and we are committed to continuing to work with you over the coming months and years. Thank you, merci, miigwech.
Thank you very much, Mr. Borby. We are looking forward to the findings of this working group and the future data that you'll be able to present to us. La prochaine personne qui va présenter est Caroline Xavier, sous-ministre déléguée, Associate Deputy Minister for Canadian Heritage.
Bonjour tout le monde.
No, IRCC? Sorry, IRCC.
Excuse me. Oui, IRCC, that is. Bonjour tout le monde, un vrai plaisir d'être ici avec vous ce matin. As Richard Sharp knows, because as a Friday evening, I wasn't expected to be a panelist this morning. So unfortunately, I'm not going to answer this question exactly as it's being stated to me or asked of me, and only because there hasn't been sufficient time for me to prepare for it. But secondly, also just because, starting week 3 in this role at Immigration, Refugees, Citizenship Canada. But what I can tell you of the few meetings I have had, because I've been doing a lot of deep diving in terms of bringing myself up to speed on the department. So far, I can tell you that there's a great team of executives extremely dedicated to ensuring that IRCC's programs are effectively implemented. And what I can also share with you is that I've seen a great deal of diversity amongst the people with whom I've been working. Il y a plusieurs membres des communautés variées qui sont des membres du comité exécutif. Donc, I'm personally pleased to see a lot of executives as well as senior executives ranking up there that are a representation of the broader community of our country. Donc, ce que je veux vous dire ce matin, que je suis dédiée à la cause, que je suis fière d'être ici parmi mes collègues sous-ministres ici. And I can tell you that I know from the conversation that have begun amongst the senior management level, in particular those of the deputy minister, there's a lot of commitment to wanting to ensure that this gets done right and trying to remove these barriers. Donc, je vais laisser ça pour le moment et j'aurai d'autres commentaires plus tard.
Merci beaucoup, Madame Xavier. La prochaine personne est Madame Jody Thomas, qui est la sous-ministre pour Défense nationale. Madame Thomas, à vous la parole.
Thank you. So the problem with going forth is a lot has already been said, which doesn't mean I don't have a lot to say. But I won't necessarily go through my notes exactly as written. First of all, I'd like to just talk about Carolyn Xavier for a moment, because she's been noted as being the first Black Associate Deputy Minister. Carolyn got there because she's brilliant. Which doesn't mean that she didn't have to work hard to get noticed and that she didn't, I don't know if she did, but she might have faced discrimination in her career, being a woman in the public service, let alone being a Black woman. And we will talk about Carolyn being the first, not because it's tokenism, not because she's a show pony we trot out at things, but because it's important that people, young people in this country, see that there is a career, no glass ceiling in the federal public service. Yep. So Carolyn will have words with me later about this, there, no doubt. But I think it's important. I was the first of something at one time in my career, and I started to wonder if being noted for being the first was positive or negative. My conclusion is it's positive. We have to send a message. We have to continue to talk about the fact that there's opportunity, there aren't glass ceilings, that competence, capability, and strong leadership can get anybody to Carolyn's job or my job. So I'd like to thank FBEC for the excellent work that they're doing and for inviting me to come and speak with you today. I've met with them twice. They came and saw me as the Deputy Minister, and we had a really interesting conversation. They then met with the entire Defence Management team, which is every senior military leader in the department and every senior civilian leader. So it's a team of about 30 all in. And they were given half an hour, and we talked for 90 minutes and blew up the agenda for the meeting. But it was such an important conversation that it was important that we continue it. And I'm really pleased to see Admiral Hayden Edmondson here today, who is our Chief Military Personnel for the military, because all in, we are the largest federal department in this country. We're about 130,000 between the civilians, military, reserves, contractors, everybody who works in our environment. And we have to do better. It is the bottom line. We were recently named an employer of choice in the National Capital Region. And so that's good. But I'm not sure we're the employer we should be or that we need to be. Last year, of the approximately 2,000 who self-identified as using the old term visible minority, and note to self, we have to change that, only 400 self-identified as Black. And why I hear that the reason why is because they're concerned.
There is a fear that self-identification, in fact, raises a stigma and puts you in a box, when in fact what it should be is helping us move people forward in their careers. So that tells me we have a lot of work to do in the Department of National Defence to ensure that Black employees feel welcome and that they want to stay and build a career. We need to identify within Defence and address our own systemic biases that negatively impact career development. Being the largest department in the country, we are in every region of this country in large numbers. And there are systemic biases in various regions of this country that we and I am responsible for doing something about. And you can't do something about it until you know about it and you start focusing on it. And so FBEC has raised those issues to my attention. We have to look at the areas where we can better attract, retain, and support Black employees from visible minorities, including Black Canadians. We have, and we've got to change the name of this team as well, the Gender-Based Analysis Plus team, and they work on everything, in, helping us integrate diversity, inclusion, and gender equality into all of our defence policies, plans, and initiatives. And I would note that we talk about diversity, but you can't have diversity without inclusion, and perhaps inclusion comes first. Representation of visible minorities is only a starting point. It is on the leadership team to define and support a culture of inclusion. And we are doing that both in the civilian side of the department and on the military. The Canadian Human Rights Commissioner noted earlier, we need to look at the diversity of our leadership team. At D&D, we've achieved some progress in gender balance within our leadership team. 5 of my senior-most civilian leaders are women, and there were none when I started as the Deputy Minister. And I put a focus on staffing women. All other things being equal, we will choose the woman. Well, I need to broaden that, and I need to broaden my lens. There was a time in my career, and I was talking about this in the drive over, where I thought I was doing the right thing by saying, I'm blind to gender, I'm blind to color, I'm blind to religion. I just look at talent. But I'm failing people by not being mindful and precise in the decisions that I make and that I encourage my leadership team to make. We must make precise and mindful decisions. We have to be intentional in our staffing actions. We have to be intentional in our policies. We have to be intentional in our inclusion strategies. And that is my commitment to you and to FBEC as we go forward. To serve Canadians, as the Department of National Defence and the Canadian Armed Forces do on a daily basis everywhere in the world, we have to reflect Canadian society. And so that is our focus for the next year. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Thomas. As you said, we can't have diversity without inclusion, and it is so important to work on stigma and also to recognize our role models and the people who are leading the way et qui ouvrent les portes pour beaucoup d'entre nous. Alors, merci beaucoup. La prochaine question est adressée à tous les panélistes. Et vous me laissez savoir, ou vous laissez savoir quand est-ce que vous voulez répondre. According to the UN Special Working Group that came to Canada in 2016, anti-Black racism is real and is expressed through micro and macro aggressions throughout the federal public service. How are senior managers addressing and maintaining a line of sight on anti-Black racism in their workplaces?
I can start.
Sure.
So within the Department of National Defence, all employees are required to take mandatory harassment prevention training, and we have a number of programs that have been implemented over the years to support employees. And we've also developed microaggression classroom training with scenario-based situations, and we walk people through how to respond, what the reality is, and what a microaggression looks like, because I don't think people truly understand that. That said, that's all great. Everybody's got training. Everybody does this kind of mandatory whatever. What I think is really critical in this is paying attention, understanding what's going on. There was a case recently in the press that had occurred in Halifax, and the leaders managing the situation, it was overt racism towards a Black employee, thought they'd done a good job, but were too content to say, okay, well, it's in the system. The labor relations process will take care of things, and the outcome will be the correct outcome, and you can't guarantee that. It requires leadership involvement, it requires bargaining agent involvement, it requires working together to find out what the situation was, protect the employee, and hold people to account for their actions. And in the public service, we are afraid to hold people to account. We don't think that you can remove somebody from the public service. Well, if somebody is racist and is behaving in a racist manner and is discriminating or harassing an employee, we'll remove them. It is what we have to do. And it doesn't mean it's easy. It just means that it's worth the effort, because we have to behave in a manner that is fair, that is transparent, that is open, and that treats people equally with dignity and respect. And so I can talk to you about all the training plans we have, but the reality is it's individual action till we set a tone that people understand that we mean business and we're taking this seriously.
Je pourrais pas être plus d'accord avec tout ce que Jody a dit ce matin. And again, as I said, coming into week 3 at IRCC, I don't yet know all of the things in place, but I know that we are collecting data. I know that we're paying attention to what it is that the data is telling us about how well or not well that we are implementing what it should be more appropriate or more equitable processes. But some of the things that personally I've witnessed or that I like to see more of is the opportunity to have these conversations. Parce que je trouve que la partie qui est vraiment bien, c'est d'avoir des conversations inconfortables, parce que quand c'est inconfortable, on va vouloir le gérer d'une façon qui est peut-être plus confortable. And so ultimately for me, you know, I was on a panel on Friday night and did an interview on Saturday morning, and then here we are today. But I have to tell you that when we did the panel on Friday evening, one of the things that we heard clearly is more of these conversations need to be happening. But more importantly, I think more of these conversations need to be happening within the senior levels of government. And comme je dis tantôt, je le vois arriver. And like Jody gave you his examples, the fact that FBEC came to our executive committee. We are talking about this at DM retreats. I attended the first one a few weeks ago prior to starting at IRCC, and I can tell you the conversation happened there. Et je peux vous dire qu'il va se faire aussi à la rencontre, le forum de SMA qui va se faire en mois d'avril, parce que je vais modérer une des panels à ce sujet d'inclusion. So all this to say is that one of the other things I think is critical for us to continue to do is ensure that when we're having competitive processes, that we try and make sure that it as well is inclusive and representative. Because I do know that sometimes, to Jody's point earlier, we have these biases that we have in place. So how do we try to check ourselves? Donc, je pense avoir une diversité dans les personnes qui vont faire les concours ou bien que vous allez voir quand vous rentrez dans les processus, c'est une façon d'améliorer. Il y a plusieurs autres choses à faire, puis j'étais contente d'entendre de certaines initiatives qu'on a en place, qu'on va essayer de mettre en place pour améliorer les processus. Mais je peux vous dire que la conversation, c'est le début de commencer à rendre la situation plus inconfortable. And as Jody said, more and more of us are dedicated to want to ensure that the people that are doing the wrong thing are out.
Well, we recognize, first of all, that the Public Service Commission can't play its role as a central agency in terms of promoting representation across the public service and identifying and eliminating systemic barriers if we're not also doing it within, if we're not living that as an employer. Alors, on a quand même beaucoup d'activités spécifiques qu'on entreprend afin de pouvoir s'assurer qu'au sein de la Commission, on vit ces principes-là. On a de la formation sur les comités d'évaluation impartiaux qui sont à l'intention des gestionnaires qui sont en cours présentement. On a un atelier qui s'appelle « Respect des différences et lutte contre la discrimination » qui est parrainé par l'Alliance de la fonction publique et la Commission de la fonction publique conjointement dans le cadre du programme d'apprentissage mixte, et c'est offert présentement. On a des séances sur la courtoisie, so issues of civility, et le respect dans le milieu de travail qui ont quand même eu un bel impact aussi. On a comme raison un comité sur la diversité et un sous-comité qui examine les enjeux qui touchent particulièrement les employés racialisés, un champion pour ce groupe. Et on a aussi des activités qui nous permettent de recueillir l'expérience vécue par les membres des différents groupes, incluant par les employés racialisés, afin d'identifier les obstacles et les éliminer et d'avoir des signaux à l'avance au niveau des problèmes qu'il peut y avoir dans notre organisation. Another important initiative we took on a couple of years ago was the creation of an ombudsman office, which has made a big difference in our organization. We are highlighting Black History Month, and we do this on an annual basis. And we also are reminded every year of the importance of combating racial discrimination within our organization. And so there are online tools, including a checklist that helps essentially identify and combat racism. In terms of key results, obviously we're keeping an eye on our workforce. We have the same challenges in terms of our own workforce that we have across the public service. We know that we are over 20% of our employees identify as racialized. We need to get more granularity as to how many of those identify themselves as Black. So we're doing well in that area. And we want to continue to improve in all those areas over the coming years. Thank you.
Alors, bonjour, merci pour votre question. Pour nous, à la Commission canadienne des droits de la personne, il est extrêmement important que l'organisation elle-même soit bien consciente que le racisme n'est pas toujours visible. Alors, racism, microaggression can be subtle, difficult to detect, and even unconscious. Alors, pour nous, c'est vraiment important de garder en tête les mots dans la décision de Bassi en 1988, « The subtle scent of racism is seldom expressed openly ». Il nous faut être vigilants nous-mêmes à l'intérieur de l'organisation si nous voulons l'être quand on fait des interventions à l'extérieur de l'organisation. Il faut être conscient de nos propres préjugés à la Commission. Alors, pour ce faire, nous avons entrepris we are fostering awareness of unconscious bias within our own organization. Alors, nous donnons du training, nous permettons à nos équipes d'enquêteurs, nos équipes de intake, alors les gens qui reçoivent les plaintes notamment, de comprendre les biais conscients et inconscients. Surtout de bien saisir que personne est immunisé contre les préjugés à l'égard dans le racisme, pardonnez-moi. C'est important de bien comprendre notre culture à l'intérieur de notre organisation. Et pour moi, le training should be an ongoing training. It should be an ongoing dialogue. It should be an ongoing education on biases, racism. It's not something that we just check the box and we say that it's done. It's something that should be continue every day. That's the most important things. We are looking at our work with or through a critical lens as well. That's very, very important. And you know, I think strongly that as a leader personally, I have also to be aware of my own biases. I have to take a closer look on my own. As a mother of a daughter of Mexican heritage and my grandson who is Black, can I say that I'm immune myself of unconscious biases? The answer is no. And I need to have this the self-awareness myself about my own biases. This is my job as a leader, and I think that the best way to lead any organization is to lead through example, and this is what I'm trying to do every day. We are also fostering a deeper understanding of intersectional discrimination, an understanding of the kinds of barriers faced by Black women, Black persons with disabilities, Black members of the LGBTQ community, and or let's say the Black person, Black women with a hijab. Discrimination become compounded, dead by thousands of cuts. Intersectional discrimination impacts mental health, a person's well-being, and put up roadblock. And it's really, really important to take that seriously. We need to do something about that.
Thank you. Thank you so much to our panel of senior managers. You know, I wish the audience would have had time to interact with you. We are running out of time, but it's encouraging to hear the words that, the things that you said today, the importance of accountability, the importance of ongoing training and dialogue, what it means to be a true leader and being aware of our own biases in order to be a good leader, and having the right discussions at senior levels, having the right people on selection processes. These are all amazing things, and these are all things that will help. These are solutions. These are things that can help move things forward. So I thank you so much. Je vous remercie énormément pour votre participation et puis pour toutes ces choses incroyables que vous avez eu à dire aujourd'hui.
Merci. Bravo. Merci. That's great. Merci, Coco.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you so much.
Bon, alors j'ai une bonne nouvelle. Et puis, je vais vous demander aussi votre indulgence. Je sais que nous sommes vraiment proches de la pause, mais par contre, nous avons un conférencier qui, quand même, malgré toutes les choses qui se passent au niveau de son département pour le moment et au niveau de son portfolio, a quand même pris le temps de venir nous parler ce matin. Alors, je suis heureuse de vous présenter Bill Matthews, Bill Matthews, qui était vraiment notre conférencier principal et puis qui est le sous-ministre pour les services publics, for public services and procurement, and Bill Matthews is also the Deputy Receiver General for Canada. Mr. Matthews, it's a pleasure to have you here. Thank you so much.
Merci, Darlene, et bon matin à tous. C'est vraiment un plaisir d'être ici avec vous. There are days I wished I was Daniel Watson, but I will tell you today is not one of those days. I would much rather be here with you than dealing with what he's dealing with. C'était presque un an depuis qu'on a organisé une séance pour les sous-ministres pour c'est une séance de la formation to underline for deputy ministers the issues faced in the public service by Black employees. It was an incredibly powerful day. And it was an eye-opener, frankly, for many of us. I know it had a deep impact on me, and I can say that it had an impact on my colleagues as well. And since that event, I've continued some discussions with Richard and his colleagues around just the problem and what we might be able to do inside the public service to help address this. And it's funny, you never know what will actually spur you to action, but the thing that really got me going was the lack of access to data. I knew we had a problem, and then people were struggling to get the data they needed to help understand the problem, and that just really stuck with me. As leaders, we have an obligation to create a healthy, respectful, inclusive, productive workplace, but it is our workplace together, and we have to set the tone as leaders, but we really have to create a tone that sets an environment where people can talk about the workplace they want, and our employees can share what they think needs to be done to make the workplace we deserve as a group. And it's clear we have work to do, not just the session from last year, but ongoing discussions, and you're all aware of the issues we face. What struck me is we have employees, and I know we have great attendance today, but we have employees who were not comfortable asking their manager for permission to even attend this event. That says something. And had they asked, the answer might have been yes. It might have been no for some good reasons, but the fact that people weren't even comfortable having a discussion tells you how much work we have to do on that front. So I'm very happy to be able to share with you today that I am going to be the Deputy Minister ally for the decade. And that means I will be it means that FBEC has my ear. FBEC has, your ear. So that's a link to the deputy minister community. That does not mean I have the answers. It means I know we have a problem. And I am happy to sort of bring forward ideas, open some doors, talk about issues, and do what I can to help advance the work for the decade. The government's made some commitments about the decade, and if we can't get our own house in order from an employer-employee perspective, I don't like our chances of succeeding on a broader scale. So really important that we have success here. It's also struck me that the decade is half over, so we got to get going. And so what does it mean to be a deputy minister ally? We're going to figure that out. I want to do something a bit different. Richard and his colleagues and I have already had some discussions. We're going to put together some sort of, I don't know if you want to call it a performance agreement, objectives, but just so we can put pen to paper and say, what is this role? And that way, when we can, and we won't get it 100% right, but it'll give us kind of some guideposts as to what we can do together to accomplish this. So we will share that with you when it's ready, and we'll adjust it as we go. If we don't fix this, we know the cost. There's a cost to the public service. If we're not getting the best value out of our employees, we're letting down Canadians. So that's the macro issue. At an employee level, there's greater implications on individuals. The issues of racism in the workplace, frustration with not having opportunities to advance in your career, the knock-on effects on mental health. So we've got a macro issue, we've got an individual issue. I'm really excited and thrilled that, and honored that I've been chosen to take on this role, and I really look forward to working with you. Donc, bon matin à tous, bonne journée, et bonne réunion.
Alors, pour la seconde partie de l'ordre du jour, nous allons avoir une présentation, une session de questions et réponses avec l'équipe de FBEC. So, for the next segment of the agenda, I'm going to invite the FBEC team to come to the stage, and there will be a Q&As with the audience. They're going to tell you a bit about their work, and it's wonderful to have them on. So Richard, are we ready? I see them coming. I see them coming. Whoop. Richard is here. Shoots.
Look at Lisa. Lisa, you can open. I can't speak. Okay. I didn't want to speak. I wanted to let my team speak on our behalf. This is, guys, this is the team. This is the guys. Thank you. So we had originally scheduled 30 minutes for this part of the agenda, but we are blowing up time, so we're going to have to recoup some time. So I hope that folks will be able to accept and respect that we're going to sort of crush this down to 10 or 15 minutes. We're opening up the floor for folks who may have questions about FBEC and what we do, how we're structured, where did we come from, why do we all look so good, Not so much me, because I'm the old man of the group. So we'd really like to open up questions. We have 2 mics on either side of the audience. We have some questions that people have been raising with us over the last couple of years. I could do a quick introduction for everybody. Lisa Daniel, Queen Bee, Natalie Tate, Chooks Onwachi, Lola Lawrence, Atong Ater, this is the newest member, these 2 newest members of the group. An amazing amount of work has come out of this team over the last 2 years. You guys just don't know. The organizing of meetings, the strategic planning around those meetings, who to meet with, what to discuss. It's just been very, very effective and very inspiring. It was one of the reasons I got pulled out of retirement to start this activism work again. So again, if you guys don't have any questions, we can respond to some of the questions that we've been hearing. Maybe that's a good place to start, and that might spur some comments from folks. Folks have asked us, what's the structure? How are we governed? So FBEC I'm out on an interchange and doing work around the UN decade, and part of that work has been to sort of study what has happened in the past in terms of our work, and what has not worked well, and what has worked well. So we have structured FBEC similar to some of the other organizations that I'm working with, both regionally and nationally, as an unstructured group. FBEC doesn't have a structure. FBEC has leads for various initiatives. We have a lead for communications. We have leads for strategic engagement and operations. We have a lead for strategic policy. And we structured ourselves that way so that we could all share the work. So everybody on this team does a bit of everything. It's not so much matrix, but it's an opportunity for folks to get the career development that they need. Like, all of these folks are punching way beyond their weight in terms of their regular day jobs. And it gives us an opportunity to focus less on administrative stuff that kind of kills community groups and community organizations. Nobody wants to be the chair because there is no chair. So if you want to be part of an organization where you can be a chair and a president, this is not the organization for you. If you want to come and be part of a movement for change to address the issues that Black employees are experiencing, and you're cool with the 2 priority areas that we have chosen, then come. And what we found over the last 2 years is that we've made an enormous amount of strides in ways that I think other committees and groups just have not been able to achieve within their departments. So that's partly why we are not structured the way people would like to believe that we should. And we're fine with that. And we're always open to have more people come and be part of it. Another question that we had is funding. So we don't take any government funding for our operations and the work of FBEC. We fund ourselves. We buy our business cards. We've bought our banners. We did ask for sponsorship from the departments to help hold this event so that you guys could come as a learning event and be part of what we're doing. But we not being funded allows us a certain amount of independence that other groups have not had. I was part of, to date me, 20 years ago, I was part of the National Council of Visible Minorities in the Federal Public Service that formed about 20 years ago, more than 21 years ago, and died about 10 years ago. And part of its death was that it was funded by government, and when government didn't like what it was doing, they pulled the funding, and people thought that, oh, we have no organization anymore, when in fact it was always ours. So FBEC is ours. Nobody can take it away from us. And to prove that, for as long as we can, we're going to be funding this and operating this on our own energy, time, and money. Maybe one day we'll take membership. Membership dues or membership fees. I don't want to say dues. We're not a union. We have no intention of being a union. Unions get your union dues, and we would like unions to do what they're supposed to do, which is to support the employees. So we're helping the unions do their job to support us, and we work on the systemic stuff. Natalie.
Hi, Richard, and hi, everybody. Just noticing that I don't see anybody rushing to the mic with any questions, but, oh, someone's coming down.
Yay.
Hi, morning. I am Jermaine from the Department of Women and Gender Equality. I just found out about this organization just a few months ago when I met Lisa at another event, and ever since I discovered that FBEC exists, Lisa has been very helpful to me in implementing stuff within my own organization. In fact, last week, the Department of Women and Gender Equality had an event where Richard was invited to speak. And ever since he came by, I only have questions asking when he'll be back to speak some more. And the other question that I've been asked, because we do have regional offices, the question that I was asked, and I have to send a response back this afternoon when I get back to the office, is do you have any regional representation?
Oh.
We have actually regional representation now. We've reached out to the regions. We have a rep in BC, in Vancouver, Charlene Libert Scott. We have a representative in Western Region, Boomy. I can't say his name, I'm sorry, but he goes by Boomy. And we have a representative in Quebec, David Nelson. Is he in the room? No, he's still having coffee. I rushed him, sorry. And we have he's back there, he's in the back, David Nelson, Montreal. Come down. And we also have a rep in Atlantic Region in New Brunswick, a familiar name, Ronald Sharp. No relation. Yes, it is a relation. It's a relation. So we're always looking for more people in the regions. Coincidentally, most of our regional reps are from Public Services and Procurement Canada. David is with Service Canada. But if you'd like to start, or if you have people in your regions asking to hook up, we didn't mention Ontario region because we don't have a rep there. So if there's anybody interested on YouTube land or here that would like to become regional rep, and I'll just pass to David. Quelques mots en français, s'il vous plaît.
Bonjour à tous, mon nom est David Nelson, représentant de la région du Québec. Je suis également représentant de la région du Québec pour le réseau des minorités visibles à Emploi et Développement social Canada. C'est très nouveau, mon implication avec le FBEC, ça remonte à quelques mois. Et je serai très heureux de collaborer avec vous et entretenir avec vous durant les pauses et pendant toute la journée pour vous dire sur quoi exactement on travaille pour mieux inclure le réseau des Noirs, le réseau de minorités visibles dans la fonction publique, principalement au Québec, et également sur quoi on travaille avec le FBEC. Merci.
Thank you, David. Mr. Robin Brown.
Hello, my brothers and sisters. First of all, fantastic job. This is like fantastic, awesome, so well done. The FBEC's focus on data is essential and fantastic, and there's basically, as you all know, three types, right? The data from the Public Service Employment Survey, which that's like achieved, right? We got the data on Black folks put back in that. There's the employment equity data that some of the executives mentioned that there's a task force put together and they're working on that. But what I want to know is the third part of data is data by race on who gets the sanctions and who gets the privileges. Is FBEC going to pursue that?
Yes, Robin, absolutely. It's in the mix of things that we are looking for. We did produce a data analysis plan with our Black colleagues at Statistics Canada. And that data analysis plan, I believe, is on our website, and we've shared it with central agencies and those responsible for data. In there, I do believe there is a question with respects to, in terms of the data set that we're looking for, sanctions. I know that there are some issues around confidentiality that keeps getting sort of put in our faces, but I think there's a way in which we can get that data and get a sense of that, either public service-wide or by department, that can get a sense to see if we are catching hell more than anybody else in the public service. Our sense is that that might be the case. Any other questions? Oh, one down here.
Hi, guys. My name is Malika. I've met you all before on the meeting at Portage. I had a question, I think that's kind of bugging me a little bit. I was wondering if you could help me. And also, I was wondering also if there are the panel members that were here earlier talking to kind of explain and define anti-Black racism versus visible minorities and inclusion, and how anti-Black racism has a particular connotation to it. And I don't think that's really caught a lot of times by the people that we need to have them realize.
If I can answer that just very quickly, I think that we here in the room, the majority of us who are people of African descent and have this melanin, know what anti-Black racism is. I think that a lot of the work that we do is to educate our leaders, which we are trying to do, educate the rest of the workforce, educate the unions on what it means. I don't think we want to go into the details of what it looks like and what it means, but suffice it to say that we are treated differently than any other group,
right.
Either historically.
Right.
We have the history of slavery, being enslaved as people. Our ancestors were enslaved in this country. So that puts us in a very, very different light than anybody else. And so the vestiges of that have continued to today. So we're seeing that play out in sometimes unconscious ways within departments and agencies. So part of that education, and also to educate ourselves as Black people that, yeah, this happened to us. So maybe that's part of that fear that seems to be genetic, that prevents us from wanting to move and address these issues. So I see we have three other questions, and
I'm the timekeeper, that's why I came over here.
Yeah, they always say I talk too much. Yeah, so that's that. FBEC wants to have continued conversations around these issues and have conversations with the other visible minority networks, because some visible minority networks have had issues with us being so Black focused, but this is the UN decade, this is our time, and we have a right to focus on our issues right now. So we want to do that in concert with everybody else. Maybe you should hold the mic.
I'll give it to other people.
Give it to other people.
I'm not sure who was next, but this gentleman here.
Oui, en fait, moi, je vais poser ma question en français. Donc, mon nom est Suleiman, donc je travaille à Faille Mondiale Canada. D'abord, je suis vraiment très content de voir cette initiative parce que je suis convaincu que ça va faire une différence, une grosse différence pour les Noirs, travaillant au niveau du fédéral. Bon, pour être précis, ma question, c'est beaucoup plus de savoir, peut-être que vous n'avez pas la réponse, mais je sais qu'il y a environ 200 000 fonctionnaires fédéraux. Est-ce que vous avez une idée à peu près du pourcentage de Noirs par rapport à ce chiffre-là? Et puis la deuxième question, c'est de savoir, est-ce que d'un ministère à l'autre, est-ce qu'il y a une différence? Est-ce qu'il y a une corrélation par rapport au pourcentage de Noirs d'un ministère à l'autre? Est-ce que vous avez déjà ces chiffres?
What was the number? There was a percent. There was a question. The number of Black public servants. So I don't have a percentage, but we do have a number from census data, which was
13,600 around there.
Yeah. So, and we don't have that broken down by department. The difference in our situation is people have to self-declare, right? They have to self-identify, and we already know that from what we've been told, people don't self-identify and they don't self-declare. So you have a piece of paper when you first get your letter of offer, you can check a box or not check the box. You could apply for a selection process, you can check a box or not check a box. Most people aren't checking the box, so the numbers that the PSC has and the individual departments don't really show the true picture. So that's why we're trying to work with Statistics Canada, Public Service Commission, together to try to get a full picture of exactly the population and how many are in each department.
Thank you. Merci.
Bonjour. We'll just have time for, we'll just have timekeeper. We'll just have time for these two questions, and we're just going to answer them really briefly so people can get on to their workshops, which is the juicy part.
Okay.
And Gerard's presentation. Sorry, Gerard.
Sandrine de Statistique Canada. Ma première question est un peu reliée à ce que vous avez dit tantôt, parce que ce matin, je remarque que les décisions ou bien les actions qui vont être prises sont très basées sur les données statistiques. Or, nous savons qu'il y a beaucoup qui ne s'identifient pas dans les enquêtes. Est-ce qu'il y a des mesures qui sont prises pour couvrir ce gap-là? Sinon, les résultats ne seront pas nécessairement représentatifs de la situation réelle. Ma deuxième question, je dirais, depuis que FBEC est en place, est-ce que il y a déjà des résultats de vos actions donc, qui ont été faits? Je sais que cette conférence, c'était déjà un des résultats que j'apprécie. Est-ce qu'il y a d'autres résultats des actions que vous avez prises? Merci.
I can answer that. Is that okay? So there's no way for us to really fill in the gaps if people don't self-identify. That's why this summer, before the PSCS survey, we were trying to contact all departments. Robin had a great idea to launch self-ID campaign. We launched the campaign, but it only went so far. Like FBEC, understand, we've been around for 2 years, 2 years and a month. And that's when the idea started. So we're still ramping up. At the beginning, there was a slide when Richard was speaking. Behind him, it had a bunch of items, different items that we've done. We've met with 30 DMs, visible minority networks, Treasury Board, OCRO, a plethora of others. PS, we were at Public Service Management Advisory Committee. So we've done a lot. We had a symposium last year, so this is kind of double the number of people. We had one last January, and everybody came out in bad weather, so we were very encouraged. We made it a bigger event this year. We're streaming it live. Don't worry, it's on your backs. Nobody sees you in the front. So we've done a lot. Check out our website. We're going to post the deck that's being presented behind us so you can have a sense of all our accomplishments. We also have a progress report that Natalie drafted just before giving birth. So yeah. So we have a progress report. It's included in the annual meeting package. It's on the website as well. So we've done a lot. There's lots to do. Thank you.
Thank you.
We're only going to take one question from Mr. Charles, because I know him and I can be like this.
Okay. Thank you very much. It's basically a question probably to all of us in the room. You just mentioned that last year we braved 80, or between 80 and 100 braved the bad weather and showed up for the first symposium. And out of that symposium, there were many resolutions and recommendations. The question is, with all those recommendations, why do I see only 6 people standing up front as members of FBEC? What happened to the 80 or so plus people? And who do we expect to do the work for us? Mm-hmm. Who is going to? Are we just going to wait and see 6 or 7 people work on it, or all of us are going to be involved? I can tell you that I work at the Treasury Board Secretariat. I took responsibility for one issue. One of the recommendations was coaching, mentoring, and career development for people. So I'm trying to work on that to see if we could just either start that within the Treasury Board Secretariat. I have a wonderful ally and Employment Equity Coordinator, Isabel at VC. Please show us. Yes, please. Yeah, Isabel is really working with us to help us advance employment equity in Treasury Board Secretariat. When I started in Treasury Board Secretariat 28 years ago, there were 6 of us at Treasury Board Secretariat. Now, I learned through Isabel that there are 80 of us who have self-identified as black people. Mm-hmm. And Isabel is helping us to create a black employees network in Treasury Board Secretariat. I would like all of us to consider and do the same in our various departments. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Charles. That's actually one of the things that we've been asking folks to participate, to engage with us within departments. We would like to see either Black networks or FBECs in every department that advises the work, not just of 6, but of hundreds. If there, in fact, are 13,000 Black folk in the federal public service, there should be standing room only in this room right now. So for the work moving forward, I think what we're hoping for is that as we grow, more people get engaged and we have constructive engagement with departments and unions and other stakeholders to move this work forward. So I think this is a great time within the decade and a great moment for us to continue doing work. We thank you guys all for your support and ongoing well wishes. We do want more people here. Most of these folks up here are on assignment with FBEC on a full-time basis, but those assignments are short, 6 months. So we are going to be looking for more employees to come and rotate in and out. You will get great experience, and also you will get great access to senior leaders and to help move this agenda forward. So please put that in mind that we are still going to be recruiting. Again, thank you very much for your time and listening to us.
Thank you very much, FBEC team. We want to applaud them for all their work, for everything that they're doing. I think it's phenomenal. Alors, merci beaucoup à l'équipe de FBEC et nous les remercions pour tout le travail qu'ils font. Notre prochain conférencier s'appelle Gérard Etienne. Gérard Etienne is the Vice President of Diversity Initiatives at the Institute on Governance. He is responsible for developing curriculum to meet the leadership and governance challenges of the public service. As well, Gérard will be called upon to conceive a growth plan for expanding the learning offerings and lead the IOG as a preferred service provider in leadership and governance. Gérard will be speaking with us about a research study that he's doing on the federal public service equity, diversity, and inclusion and the programs that exist and initiatives. Alors, nous souhaitons la bienvenue à Gérard. 10 minutes.
Promise. So you know it's impossible to ask a Haitian to stick to 10 minutes. So we're going to try to see if I can do that. Look, as the song goes, I'm so excited, and I just can't hide it. A year ago, we had an event. There was about 70 to 100 people who attended, and now I'm here looking at all of you, and I'm saying, my God, that's beautiful. You know, that's beautiful. I am here to say that others cannot actually tell our story that has been done for too long with bad outcomes. I am here to say that we need to tell our story. And I'm going to do what you were asking of Richard before I came on. I'm going to ask you to participate heavily in a groundbreaking research that finally may be able to provide us the evidence that we'll need. We live in a world where some say the truth is not the truth. Within the federal public service, that usually gets translated to evidence-based. So the reality of us raconter nos histoires individuellement ne force pas les changements dont nous avons besoin. So we need to change tactics. We need to go on evidence, and we need to go on truth, which means by essence, we need to go academic on them. So, before telling you the research that I'm undertaking, I'm going to ask you for a leap of faith. I'm going to ask you to do something that I know you're going to feel uneasy with, but I'm going to ask anyways. And I promise you, the payout will be worth it. I'm going to ask you to close your eyes. And you need to keep your eyes closed. I will tell you when to open your eyes. Fair enough? Okay. If you know of a cousin that had to deal with discrimination in the workplace, stand up. If you know of a brother, and keep your eyes closed, if you know of a brother or sister that had to deal with discrimination in the workplace, stand up. If you know of a brother, if you know of a friend that had to deal with discrimination in the workplace, stand up. If you yourself had to deal with discrimination in the workplace, stand up. Now open your eyes. Look around. Everyone. Our shared humanity makes it such that it doesn't matter if you were born in Haiti or in Jamaica or in Zimbabwe or in Canada or in the United States of America. That beautiful complexion that comes with so many tones that makes us so unique also binds us to a common history. We have been beaten, we have been kicked, we have been pushed, but as Maya Angelou once wrote, we always rise. So, I'm coming here to ask for your help. Soon enough, there will be a survey on the FBEC website that I'm going to ask you to complete. I'm doing a research. It's groundbreaking because it has never been done before, not in academia, not in the federal public service. And the research that I'm undertaking has nothing to do with changing more policies and changing more structures. We've done that for 40 years. Nothing has changed. As you would know, being crazy is doing the same thing and expecting different results. So where this is essential, having our voices heard is even more important. So what do we need to do? The research has two parts to it. There's a quantitative part. For it to be valid, I need at a minimum 400 people to complete the questionnaire. 400. That means each one of you have to commit to find another 3 black person to complete the questionnaire. That's the first step, 400. If it is less than 400, I cannot generalize the black population. It won't be statistically significant. Those are the rules of the game, and I'm going to play by that rule. So minimum 400 people to complete a questionnaire. Then for each one of you that are in a department, I'm looking to do focus groups within your department, a minimum of 10 black employees that I can go and meet and do qualitative research by listening to their life history. Aided with data and lived experience, we can finally tell our story within the federal public service. And it will be a story of hardship, but it will also be a story of triumph. So, you want to help? This is a way that you can help. And my fingers are crossed that when I look, I will see a strong community behind me, and I will not be forging ahead alone, hitting my head against the wall. Let's help me push the wall down. Thank you. 10 minutes.
Yes, sir. Merci beaucoup, Gérard. Thank you. for reminding us of that common history. Thank you for the visual that I think we will all remember, so many people standing up, and we certainly look forward to the results of your study.